This next question says, what do you think about public-private partnerships?
I have a personal story about this. My mother-in-law got a letter in the mail, and it said, you have been on a toll road, and you got to pay this fine. My mother-in-law drives about 3 miles a month, and the toll road was about 75 miles down the road. And she got this letter. Now, if you look carefully at the letter, you couldn't see the last 2 digits of the license tag. My guess is the collection agency for this toll road probably sent out this letter to everybody with the same prefix to see who's going to pay up. Now, here is the rub on this. The rub is this. If she doesn't pay that fine that she doesn't owe, then they're going to keep her from getting her license tags renewed. This is part of the problem of a public-private partnership. And it comes down to this. The term is operating under the color of authority. If you like the idea of any non-government agency, any corporation, masquerading with the full power, strength, and credit, if you will, of a government organization, then you ought to love public-private partnerships. If that bothers you, then you ought to stand firmly against that. Government is very good at governance. Let corporations be very good at finding ways to generate revenue. But when you combine those, you end up with something very, very close to fascism. And we ought not to support that. Does that mean we can't be innovative when it comes to building roads at I-77? The answer is no, we must be innovative. But we have to do it in a way that is consistent with keeping government and business separate. It's one of those checks and balances that's not really in the Constitution in that sense. We lose a check and balance. We also end up with an idea of corporatism and the idea of crony capitalism that's involved very, very easily with these public-private partnerships. I would stand firmly against them. They ultimately do not lower the cost of construction or road construction or ease transportation. No to public-private partnerships.
Yeah, in 2008, actually, President Obama ran on those as his platform to actually help increase the economy. You get the private corporation getting the public backing, which means it's power, it's money. That's a monopoly, but by definition, as Bill talked about, that was fascism. It's unacceptable, it's anti-American. If you have our interstate system, which is paid by excise tax, gasoline tax, it's already been paid for by those, and now you take the left lane and give it to a private entity, who makes the money? The private entity. That's not even capitalism on that part. So we have to look at the real definition of words and what they are. Whenever the government gets involved in anything outside of its bearing, and you're talking about the Constitution, in 1817, when Madison vetoed the bonus bill, was going to build interstate highways, he said it's not there. Let's get an amendment process. See, they thought through every idea. So since we do with an excise tax, you do not allow that place to be sold to the highest bidder. Because the person that pays for it is you and me. Again, it's a double taxation. We've already paid for that idea. So we have to understand true markets, true innovation, that you're talking about, Bill. We built the best highway system the world's ever seen by excise tax. Let's continue that, and let's not sell it off to the highest bidder. And some of these bidders are foreign corporations. Look at Texas. So there, again, P3s are not American, and they're definitely not North Carolina.
Let me just say, first of all, I agree that when you look at these partnerships and the whole idea of the toll roads, that's not good government. That's not North Carolina government. We all know how we got in this problem. We all know that the highway fund has been raided by Democrats in our state legislature for some time, who use it for other things, and now suddenly we find ourselves needing money. They've been raising the money with our gas tax, which here in North Carolina we all suffer with time and again, and now they need the money, and they're looking to turn to the toll roads. You and I know that it's a bad premise. You and I recognize that it must be stopped. Because when you really just look at it for what it is, we're saying let's privatize the profits, but let's socialize the risks. Now, by any stretch of the imagination, that is a recipe for disaster. That is not North Carolina values. That's not American values. And I fully support standing against these public-private partnerships as a result of that.
There's not a whole lot to add to that. I agree with the gentleman up here. P3s are very detrimental to us because once you privatize that one part of the road, who's to say that that private company cannot then say who will and will not travel down that part of the road, whether or not you're going to pay the fee. Once they own that road, they own that road, and at any point in time, they can shut it down and say, I don't care if you can pay the toll, I am only letting X, Y, and Z take this road. In that, we cut off our access. But not only that, you have to think about your everyday life. You think about the people that have to pay the tolls on these roads, traveling back and forth to work, because we are now a commuter society having to travel for jobs in order to be able to make the money to pay our bills. You think about the cost just to drive back and forth to work every day, for some people, 30 to 45 miles. That is detrimental to our families' economies, which then in turn becomes detrimental to our businesses because our families are our consumers, and when you don't have money to spend, our businesses go under because they cannot sell the product they make. P3s in no way, shape, form, or fashion help us. Even if it does mean a short-term fix to our road money problem, it is not a long-term fix, and it becomes a long-term problem.